It's kind of scary to say something that's very controversial, but I just, I just need to say it. And if somebody has different opinions, I'm really welcome to hear them. If you have different methodologies about what I'm talking about, I'd love to hear it, because I haven't found an alternative to stop the stretch, to stop stretching yet. Okay, so I'm Chantal. I'm a Pilates teacher. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I have not danced in the past like so many Pilates teachers have. I always felt very inferior about that. But I really love movement, and I love feeling my body. I love challenging my body. I love the feeling after and while I'm doing it, when I'm done, before I go. I love everything about it. And it's changed my life from a normal retail existence to having a purpose in life, and knowing that that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm helping people feeling better in their bodies. And I've been doing it now for 18 years, maybe 17. I don't know even when I graduated from Pilates school. But anyway, yeah, I want to talk today about the subject of stretching. And it's so funny, it came up, I taught my clients the first session, they come in and we're talking about, what do you do for yourself? Does it help? Is it sustainable? Is it actually improving things? Just to see what their practice is and what they're doing. Some of them do nothing. Some of them have a very regimented yoga practice, or whatever. So we determine what they're doing and if that could be causing their pain or their problem. Most people have some kind of a pain, otherwise they wouldn't show up for a really expensive session at a Pilates studio doorstep. So I talk to them, and they get, I have my pictures there, and I have my spiel with the TheraBand, which I'm gonna give you too. And then they like, that makes sense. And usually I don't talk to other people about that, because I'm like, oh, who am I? And last Friday, the evening before my 49th birthday, we sat at the bar of the best restaurant in Santa Fe. Santa Fe is tiny. It's not that many great restaurants in this town. And we get to chat with this lovely couple, and they're visiting from out of town, and they're, the bar is made so you can sit very close and you have to chat. That's why we go there. And they're, like in their early 50s and super enthusiastic Pelotoners, right? And I get it. I used to be into spinning for a little while when I lived in New York, and I get the rush, I get the addiction, and it's great. Whatever suits you, whatever makes you happier, you do that. Please keep doing that. But he was saying, so what do you do? We chat, and Pilates teacher. Oh, well, tell me. I'm always so tight. I stretch a lot, but I'm so tight all the time. And I'm like half a martini in, and I said, do you want to open that can of worms? And he's like, yeah, let's open it. All right, okay. So here we go. Here's the can of worms. The first thing I told this lovely gentleman is, you're tight for a reason. And I'm not making this up. This is from one of my teachers. She would always say, you're tight for a reason. And it was not just her. There's other teachers after that who said, your body is not stupid. We need to stop the notion that our body is working against us, because it's not. Our bodies are not stupid, and our bodies are doing everything they can to support our daily life. Now, if you sit a lot, to supporting you sitting, your body needs to tighten up certain things, because otherwise it would be really hard for you to sit. And to sit, if you ever try to sit consciously, upright, which I'm not right now, right? I'm kind of getting comfortable. It's actually really hard work to sit upright, beautifully engaged, beautifully aligned, head in line with your tailbone, like all that stuff. And you couldn't sustain yourself there for 5 minutes. Now you have to go to work, right? So this gentleman, he loves to cycle. So he does every day, he's going for an hour on the Peloton. And then I said to him, what do you need to actually cycle successfully? You need tight hip flexors and you need tighter quads just to get that motion going, right? So what you demand from your body, you will get. If you don't demand anything, you won't get anything, pretty much. And if you demand a lot of sitting, you'll get a desk posture. And if you demand a lot of cycling, you get bigger quads and tighter hip flexors. So what you demand a lot of is what you get. So that's number one. The body is not stupid, and the body is not working against you. And we need to stop that notion, oh, my muscles are so tight. Well, you've got to approach things differently. I sound really angry right now. I'm not really that angry. I'm just really frustrated. So the body is not stupid, and the body is not working against you. And you get what you demand. Now, another teacher of mine said, we have about, I don't know if she said 65 years. I think it's probably more than that. Years of heart usage of the body. Now, if you've run in your 20s and 30s, 5 marathons a year, or you're a triathlete, pretty committed, or ultra, whatever, crazy skier, injured yourself a couple of times there, your body is showing some wear and tear. And if you've moderately worked, and I'm not saying don't do anything, because if you don't do anything, you don't get anything. Your body needs to be worked, and there has to be some demand put on your body. Otherwise we know that if you lay in bed for 3 weeks, you can die, right? Depending on your age. So just saying, if you put a lot of hard demand on your body might wear out a bit quicker, and you might start hurting a little earlier than other people. But those are usually the people, and this is my experience, who are fully aware of what they did in the past. This is why high level athletes, they're not, besides Mr. Brady, you're not really a high level athlete in your 40s, right? That's just not feasible. If you're really hitting it, you're gonna wear it out, and that's okay too. But what I really want to say is, if you're stretching right now, if this is part of your practice, has it ever gotten better? Have you ever gotten to a point where you felt, wow, I'm getting much looser now? So good. My stretching routine really helps. Please let me know if you feel that way, because I don't know anybody who's finished stretching, stopped stretching because they arrived. And I'm not talking about the gymnasts and the ballet dancers. That's part of their job. But if you're a normal person and you're stretching yourself, I want you to start thinking a little bit differently. So, has there been a moment where you felt like it's getting any better? And I dare you. And you probably say no. There's no moment, because I've tried it. I've heard, when I first started doing Pilates, I've heard your hamstrings are really tight and your hip flexors are really tight and your quads are really tight. So that was like, and they were all, I loved all of my teachers. I'm not saying they were idiots or anything. They're not. They're phenomenal. But it's just, it's an observation, and I see it. You have tight hamstrings, range of motion is compromised, blah, blah, blah. I totally get it. And then nobody ever really put me on a stretching regimen, but the one thing that everybody always said is like, roll out your quads. You just got to roll out the quads, with the foam roller. And I rolled out my quads pretty diligently for 2 years. Like, I was on it. I'm like, I'm going to get those quads. I'm going to stretch them. I'm going to lengthen them. And it did nothing. I actually felt tighter in the long run. That's that. So here I'm still at the bar, martini, talking to the guy. And I just said, and I'm going to get my book. We have muscles. Muscles pull bones. They pull, they contract. The muscles are programmed to contract. So, and here's my little TheraBand. This is heavy. I'll take a lighter one. So now if a muscle is programmed to contract, so let's say my biceps, it's not a great example, but the muscle wants to do this. Now, if I want to stretch my biceps and I'm pulling on that muscle and I'm pulling and I'm pulling and I'm pulling, what does this muscle want to do more of? Contract, right? And we're going in and imposing, and this could be your hamstrings. You're like, oh, I'm going to stretch those hamstrings. And what does your hamstring want to do? It just wants to be shorter. So we got to understand that muscles are programmed to contract first and foremost. And then it's about relationship. How strong is my triceps? How strong is my biceps? And if they're equally strong and healthy and everything works great, then there is no tightness that you feel. Ask your toddler if they feel tight today, right? I mean, no, because everything in the body below the age of, let's say, maybe 4, 5, before they go to school and sit all day, everything works phenomenally well. I sound pissed off again, right? I'm not, but I really need to talk about it. So here we go. Muscles want to contract. Now, the muscles don't attach directly to the bone. There's tendon, which is a collagenous, kind of like hair, if you will, collagen. There's no blood supply in the tendon. I'm still talking about the hamstrings. Let's see if I can find. So in a way, you can see here, hopefully. So here is this is a hamstring tendon. So the muscle becomes the tendon, and then the tendon attaches to the bone. And then we have ligaments. And ligaments are kind of the same collagenous texture as a tendon, and ligaments connect bone to bone. And here, let's say in the grant, so this book is actually this, just to show that. If you see here, the ligament thigh bone inserts into the hip. That's pretty fascinating. I mean, it's like wrapped super tight. Here, look at that. Like, that's your sacrum. There's your thigh bone in the hip joint, and here the sacrum joined together. It's 3 bones. It's 2 bones for the hips and 1 bone, which is the sacrum, which are fused vertebrae. And they're being held together by ligaments. There's muscle around too, and tendon. But the deepest layer of holding is a ligament. And there is movement in those joints, obviously. Your thigh bone can really move in the hip joint without you creating any kind of an issue or injury. And you can see this is like, actually, they're running in these crazy, there's different orientation to the ligament. And that allows us to move. Okay, enough about the ligament. But what happens? So I said this is muscles contract and extend. They're programmed for contraction. It's a chemical reaction, the fibers sliding together. And then the other muscle basically helps you extend. So this is why hamstring squats, glutes, hip flexors, biceps, triceps, back extensors, flexors, like they all have to synergistically play together. And if they don't play together well, let's say if one side is much weaker than the other, it doesn't stand a chance. That's what I told the guy at the bar. I was like, so what are you doing? Well, I'm pulling my knee, and I was like, yeah, you pull, but I was like, what are you stretching? Do you know what you're stretching? Well, I don't know. I'm stretching. So you have tendons, you have ligaments, you have muscle. I would dare you. I mean, I don't know. I'm, maybe a really skilled chiropractor. Well, although I would say, there's not the cracking kind. There's some much smarter chiropractors out there. Or a really skilled rolfer would potentially know, they know what they're working on. Like, is it tendon? Is it ligament? Is it muscle? But us, lay people, we don't. Now, if you just say, I'm going to pull on something like the ham, I mean, this is just a bad example. It's just right there. If I just want to pull, oh, this is tight and I want to pull it, I want to pull it, I want to pull it. I don't know if I'm stretching shoulder ligaments, tendons, elbow ligaments, tendons. I don't know. And then you go for it. It's like you're trying to go somewhere, but you don't have a map. I don't know, like, weird example. So that being said, you don't know what you're stretching. And if you've ever had a sprained ankle, you know what a stretched ligament feels like. If you've ever had a tear, a hamstring issue, you probably tore up on that tendon a little bit. Been there myself. It's super painful and really hard to stay away from re-injuring anyways. So you don't know what you're stretching. And it could be that you're stretching your ligaments and your tendon, both, one or the other. And they do not recoil. It's kind of like hair, right? You keep pulling your hair and at some time it bursts. So they just have much less give when you're pushing a range of motion on them. Injury happens at the end range. The last 10% of your range, think baseball throwing. If they throw their arm behind and pulling that arm constantly, why do they have so many shoulder rotator cuff issues? Because they're not protecting their ligaments. For the sake of throwing that ball or whatever it is that you're doing, you're pulling and boom, rotator cuff tear. I hope I'm making sense. So I say you don't know what you're stretching. It's like you want to know what you're eating, right? Like you want to know. It's like, tell me as much as I can know about my body. What are good supplements if you're into that? Or what's the diet that works for me? Or medication I should take or not. I want to be informed. I want to know. At least I do. And then I can make an informed decision. And I'd highly advise to do that and not trust anybody. Don't even trust me, what I'm saying right now. Just feel and experience. And you've had probably experienced any kind of injury in your body. So anyway, so let's come back to, I'm coming back to Mr. Peloton. And so I'm giving him my spiel. It was not that long, we're all waiting for dinner. And he says, oh, so you want me to just work my glutes more and my hamstrings? I'm like, yeah, that could be a great start. Stop the stretch and work the opposing muscles more. He totally got it. Like this was me half drunk on a half a glass of martini in a busy place, trying to make sense of myself. And he's like, oh my God, yeah, that makes sense. So this is the thing, what I wanted to say, actually. We all have an innate wisdom if we just are allowed to think about it. So he got it. And he's like, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to bridge more, I'm squatting more. I said, do this. So I gave him a couple of exercises, gave him my card, like, go to slowcore.com, of course. And then, so just today, a good friend of mine comes for a session. I've known her for a really long time, and we've been through many issues. And I helped her fix her hip. She used to belly dance a lot, and it was very much like just triable, she said. So it's only the left hip that would, do the movement. And she would constantly stretch that left hip, hamstring hip. She'd push into it and just did this weird leaning thing. And until I said, you have to stop it. You can't. You have to catch yourself before you want to do it, because it was so deep in her. She did it like 40 times a day. I don't know, maybe 60, because it was always so tight. She needed to stretch it. See, it doesn't help. Like, it makes you actually much more tighter if you keep stretching. Because coming back to reason number one, you're tight for a reason. Point number one, you're tight for a reason. Now, what's the reason? You don't have enough strength to support your body. That joint, the joint below, the two joints below, above, who cares? I don't know. The brain is the first attack. Like, we have to really talk about the brain here. And I'm not talking about the conscious thinking brain. I'm talking about the subcortical. I'm talking about the parasympathetic, the one that checks, I call it mission control, the one that checks if everything is fine. And it checks that 24/7. It regulates your heart, it regulates your breathing, your pooping, your digestion. And it scans, we don't know, but it's like, okay, where's the saber-toothed tiger? Are we safe? Because its primary concern is survival. And this brain too, for sure, not saying that doesn't want to survive, but this wants to survive on a whole different level. Now it sits on top of a very shaky foundation all the way up there. And standing upright is already a liability to this brain. It's like, oh, what if we fall? And then when you work with a lot of older clients, you can see how this brain is shutting them down. Because if you don't have if you're over 50 and you don't have a regular strength movement practice, conscious movement practice, you're in trouble. You are, and you know it. Here, maybe even here, and you have a choice. You can say, is my life gonna look like this? And all of a sudden, I'm just barely hobbling along, barely able to lift one foot off the floor, or am I doing something about it? And that's a choice, that everybody has. So coming back to your brain. So let's say mission control, you want to stand up, and mission control feels that one hip is just not strong because you're standing more on the right side. I don't know, maybe you have an injury, and it does everything it can for you to walk or stand upright. And it might not choose the appropriate muscle. It might not say, oh, well, gluteus medius got to fire a little more. It might just clench your quad, rectus femoris, whatever, like something along those lines there. And maybe it's your shoulder. Oh gosh, there's could be any kind of pattern in there that your brain thinks, okay, whatever is accessible, I'm going to take. And for a lot of people, it's the quad that just takes over stability. Well, then you're not going to bend your knee really successfully. Going down on the floor is going to be harder. Well, I'll talk about that another time. So we have to talk to this brain first. And if this brain thinks you need to be tight somewhere, you'll be tight. And any amount of stretching you do, you're just going to freak this thing out even more. And it's going to make you tighter. Unless you have a different experience, let me know. Yeah. So that's my little rant. Now, if you've actually worked on hypermobility, like the yoga, the Bikram. Oh, I'm a huge fan of Bikram. Those people are in so much pain because what do? If you heat your hair with a hair dryer, is it going to break easier than when it's cold? Right? I mean, us women know that, unless you have really short hair and don't use a hair dryer. That your hair breaks if you heat it too much. And now you go into your poses and you're going to pull into whatever. Guess what? You're destabilizing your body so much more. And I have to say, I used to know a lot of, yoga people Santa Fe is a big yoga town, and they all felt they were really, really tight. They're like, oh, I need to go to yoga because I'm so tight. It's like, when the fuck is your yoga going to pay off for you? When are you going to actually feel better? Anyways, something about it's this. Like when the well and the good and the whatever, Dr. Oz's are talking about exercise, they always talk about stretching. What the fuck? Who came up with that shit? It's like you're never arriving, like you're never good enough. You're never flexible enough. This is how deep this goes. Because I've tried it for many years, unsuccessfully. And I wasted a lot of time doing so. So what really needs to happen is you need to change your approach. You need to work on keeping your shit together. Physically. I don't think you can't lose your shit once in a while. It's good. But you need to learn, especially if you have a history with hypermobility, like a dancer, gymnast, yogi, injury, where you went beyond your range one too many times, 100, 1,000 too many times. You need to better cultivate a movement practice that makes your tendons and your ligaments obsolete. They're not obsolete, obviously, but you can live without a PCL, ACL, meniscus. They're ligaments. They're holding your leg. They're holding your lower limb to your thigh bone. But you can live without them. You can live with a torn rotator. You better be fucking strong to support it. Most of my oldest teachers, or I said my most influential teachers, where I did a lot of teachers, they were all dancers, and both of them, they used to be modern dancers, classical dancers, and they were both, I don't want to be like in their late 50s back then, and they always said, if we didn't have Pilates, we wouldn't be walking around. We know how to organize. We know how to keep things together. And we have a consistent practice. I don't know how many times a week they did it, but they were consistent because they knew they needed the muscular support to hold their stuff together, especially in the pelvis, in the SI joint. Because as a dancer, you're going to try and get that leg up or back or wherever. I mean, I'm jealous. I always was, because I couldn't do it. I just never had the flexibility. But now I know this is a huge blessing for me, because I don't have to contend with this. My knees hyperextend, and it's not a great thing, because it's just being lazy in a way. You're stretching, and then you're stretching and you're not paying attention, and all of a sudden, you don't want to have hyperextended knees, especially not walking around on them all day or standing on them all day. Coming back to my client today, first, she comes in, and this is going to be a rant now, and she has shifted her whole body. So we've been working together for 10 years, probably, and not always super consistently, because she's traveling a lot. She's working here and there. So there were big interruptions. Also, an injury that took her basically 2 years out of the equation, but her whole rib cage is shifted to the left. Like, pelvis is here, her ribs were here. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? She's like, well, my back hurts a bit there. And I was like, well, how did it feel? Just shift your ribs a little bit to the right. And she's like, oh, that feels so much better. I'm like, so what did you do yesterday? Like, this is so locked up, that side. And she's like, well, it kind of started. I went to structural integration, nothing against that. And then this started a couple of weeks ago when he worked on my psoas, and he really pulled my psoas. Why? So whoever pulled her psoas too much and destabilized that muscle. And the brain said, oh, well, what else can we result to? Okay, let's shift more over. So her quadratus lumborum, the muscle right next to it, boom, seized up. The brain doesn't care if it's the right muscle. It's just going to do it. And the brain doesn't really care if the danger is over. Like as humans, we're not really kind of built like that. Animals, they shake it off after they run. The gazelle runs from the lion. They shake it off. It's completely wiped off their system. Stuff stays for us. So the brain, you shifted, your body tried to figure it out. Brain says, okay, let's hold the next thing available. Well, there's the quadratus. And now she's shifted. She's severely shifted over. And her lower back is hurting now because she's compressing down. Muscles are getting tight, clenched. Muscles don't like to be tight, obviously. But the brain controls the muscles. It's not that the muscle says, hey, let me just be tight today. Just feel like it. No, it's your brain. And you have to talk to this guy first. So, and then a friend responded to my Instagram post about the pelvis. And she said, oh my God, I've been in so much pain for 2 years now. It's like, so what are you doing? Oh, I did this, and that, chiro, orthobionomy, which is phenomenal. Naturopathy, great. But it's not helping. And that really motivated me to make this video. I said, you got to learn how to access strength. How do you stabilize your pelvis? And that's really what it is. So my appeal to whoever sees this, and if you know somebody who is in pain constantly, especially if it's lower back, sacral pain, and I'm not saying it's gonna always take it away. I mean, we're human living beings. Shit hurts on occasion. But if it perpetually hurts, you're in trouble. First of all, the brain is aging. It's too much. The brain has too much to contend with. You want to get out of pain as quickly as possible. And I'm not saying take a painkiller. That's not taking you out of pain. You want to figure out what you have to do with your body to not be in pain. And I would say, number one, stop stretching. You're working against your system. You're not working in synergy. You want to turn the muscles on, and that's very much Pilates. It's conscious movement. If my muscles are turned on, if I say I'm holding something heavy, and if I'm slowly lengthening my muscle, PNF is a way. If you'd want to go stretch, go do it PNF. Its load is involved. Then I can achieve a lengthening sensation, but I don't want to just hang something or pull something just for the sake of it. You want to pay attention to what you're doing. A lot of good work is resistance training, like closed chain stuff. Again, Pilates with the machines. But beyond that, you want to be able to do this without a machine and just learning techniques on how to stabilize and harness the strength of your muscles if your ligaments are not there anymore to support it. I'm going to be posting some videos to that. Super simple, easy breezy little snippets, 2 minutes, 5 minutes long, that anybody can do, especially. And so the pain just circling one more time back. Your body is not stupid. Your body is not working against you. And the pain that you're feeling is your body sending you a message to say, stop. It's not working for me. Stop it already. And what do? Some people do. We're going back to stretching it or whatever we're doing. Painkiller. I don't want to deal with it. There's only so long that you can put your head in the sand. You can't do it forever. At some point, you have to face your shit. And, whatever shit it is. Okay. I think I'm done. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. I'd be happy to talk about it. If you found a way, if you stretch and you're like, yes, I'm getting more flexible by the day, let me know how you're doing that. I'd love to talk to you. If you know somebody who is hugely into stretching and this video made sense, maybe pass it on to them. We need to stop the insanity. Yeah. Thanks for listening to this if you're still here. And yeah. Let me know if this was helpful. Ciao.